Hi folks, this is your MWIS Fleeting View in association with Petzl. Now the early part of this forecast is looking rather undesirable, with milder temperatures, spells of heavy rain and strong winds across the mountains sustained for a few days. Into next week, indications of something a bit chillier where the mountains go back below freezing and some fresh snowfalls are looking likely once more. The weather chart for Thursday is a rather unsettled one, with gale-force southwesterly winds across the mountains, a waft of mild air from the Atlantic, giving temperatures of around +5°C on the Munros, so thawing will be commencing widely to upper slopes. The air temperature may just come down a degree or so from the west as a cold front clears into the afternoon. There'll be spells of heavy rain for most places, some persistent falls, particularly over more west and southwest facing hills and mountains, and the risk of an isolated rumble of thunder just briefly near to some western coasts. Looking at the freezing level situation, this is for Thursday midday, so above freezing to the high tops at that point, but just lowering from the west onwards into Thursday evening as that cold front comes in, back to around 1200 metres or so, just the highest tops in Scotland, then back close to freezing point. And that will lift again though onwards into Friday as the next push of mild air comes up from the south-southwest, so well above freezing to higher slopes into Friday daytime. The freezing level would be above 2000 metres, so well above our mountain tops. Again, by Friday evening, that level just comes down somewhat across western Scotland, and we go into Saturday and we see that freezing level starts off the day near to 1000 metres, maybe just lifting with time up towards 1100, 1200 metres into the afternoon. So Saturday at least sees the higher summits back just near or below freezing point. Some fluctuations onwards into Sunday. It may just be that the freezing level hangs on to some upper slopes into the daytime, but I think for a spell that value will just lift above freezing for a time through the day. And then by late Sunday onwards into Monday, just a hint that freezing level comes down and stays down for a bit longer, maybe even for much of the week across a good part of the Highlands, with a value even as low as around 800 metres in northern Scotland, back to around 1000 metres in northern England. Most likely the tops in England and Wales at this point still stay above freezing point for a good few days further. There may be some fluctuations next week, not absolutely certain with the detail once we go a week forwards. Some model indications just spin up a little weather system here over the Irish Sea. That's greatly uncertain, but the indication would go with temperatures being on the colder side and the potential at least to drag that freezing level much lower, at least across Scotland, in the second half of next week. So freezing conditions returning and some snow that would accumulate. Apart from a few old, hardened, consolidated snow patches on the mountains, there won't be a great deal to be found this weekend. This snow depth map looking rather sorry for itself at this stage. Onwards into next week, and there's a few flickers just appearing as some accumulations are found on this model. It's a rather coarse resolution, bear in mind, so some of the higher mountains may just receive a bit more than this would suggest, but that indication at least of some dustings of snow returning to higher slopes into next week. And although uncertain, there's at least the scope into midweek and maybe the later part of the week where some more widespread accumulations of snow return to the Scottish mountains at least. So we'll watch the detail as to how that unfolds. The weather sequence onwards into this weekend suggests that Friday will dawn with rain already setting in from the southwest, extensive gale force winds across the hills and mountains, severe gales across higher terrain, 60-70 miles per hour or more, and that will last for a good part of the day. Highest rainfall totals on south and southwestern facing hill groups, least of rain further north and northeast, but a pretty poor day across all regions. There is a lull in conditions, all things relative, likely into Saturday as the worst of the winds just start to ease down. Could still be gales though across higher tops in the northwest of the Highlands, but we're just in a gap in between rain systems, so drier conditions. Can't rule out a few patches of rain or showers, particularly near to western windward coasts, but just a drier picture for many. Some brighter skies around as well. Best of cloud breaks further toward the east and northeast. Western coastal mountains more likely still shrouded by cloud, and it does remain a windy day, must be said, across the Scottish high tops, but not the gales of Friday. Things go downhill again on Saturday night into Sunday as the next weather system comes in from the Atlantic. That will bring strengthening winds, widely reaching gale, then severe gale force, 60-70 miles per hour or more again across the mountains, and some heavy rain setting in once more, particularly over those more western, southwestern facing hills, but everywhere seeing a pretty wet day, followed by clusters of heavy showers, and those eventually turning back to some snow across higher mountains, particularly in Scotland, and leading to an unsettled start to the new week as well. The worst of that weather system likely to ease during Monday daytime. It still looks like a day of gales across the high mountains and some frequent precipitation, which we're back as some snow and some hail across western mountains in Scotland, some frequent rain across western England and Wales looking likely. Then it's a more westerly dominated weather regime likely for a good few days, perhaps throughout the week as a whole. Temperatures near to average by this stage compared to the push of mild air in the short term. Complications will surround just little areas of low pressure and frontal systems trying to push through in that mix, so detail through midweek isn't particularly certain, but we've seen the scope at least to put some accumulating snow back onto Scottish mountains, and we could see another area of low pressure develop, so it's still a rather unsettled, changeable mix. There'll be some brighter spells in there at times, the risk of something more widely windy with rain and upland snow, and just the suggestion at least that the airflow pattern is trying to come around from a chillier north-northwesterly source by the end of the week. So this weekend ahead doesn't look particularly promising, but the following weekend in terms of winter mountaineering does have greater scope, with temperatures looking more likely to be colder and some fresh snow to have fallen. We'll keep up to date with all those developments, all your local details for 3 days ahead on our website. That is your Fleeting View in association with Petzl.